Let's talk about women, marginalized, youth. Are their voices included when you talk about public finance management? We are joined by two ladies in the studio for that conversation. Doris Munyingi is a program officer at Groots Kenya, and Cecilia Mtomborogo is a Groots Kenya budget champion for Laikipia County. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Karibuni sana to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Asante, and thank you for having us.
Let's have an interesting one. Siti, this man from Papua New Guinea, has a proverb from Africa, the country of Chad.
Where two rivers meet, the waters are never calm.
Where two rivers meet,
the waters are never calm.
Doris, you're smiling. That proverb. Does it resonate? What's your interpretation of it?
Where two rivers meet, the waters are never calm. Okay. What's it? My interpretation of it is where two powerful, if I'm to use in this case the discussion we're having, when two powerful people come with opinions, you expect maybe something like a burst out of the conversation. Yeah, that's how I'd take it.
Cecilia, what's yours?
Anytime there is a discussion that is moving to the same direction, there is always a ripple effect.
City?
The beauty of Proverbs is this. Every interpretation is acceptable and is correct because that is your interpretation. Essentially what you're telling us is how that proverb resonates with you. Yes. So there was a score, or there was a scale of 1 to 10. You'd both get 10.
That's good.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's a good welcome, isn't it?
Thank you.
To the conversation. Now, we've had several people from Groots Kenya here before, but for the sake of those who may not have interacted with Groots Kenya, please introduce us to Groots Kenya.
Okay. First of all, thank you for having us. And Groots Kenya, Groots is an acronym of grassroots organizations operating together in sisterhood. And so Groots Kenya is a national movement of grassroots women and girls that seeks to facilitate the evidence of grassroots women as change makers in their own development. And what is interesting about us is that, one, we use a very unique model, and the model that we use is what we call the champions model. And so basically the champions model, and that's why you'll hear Cecilia introduce herself as a champion, is a model whereby we allow our grassroots women and girls to identify their problems first, to conceptualize the solutions, and then now out of this, as we are raising our programs, to be able to track change. And so I think that's why our model is very unique. And so we have been in operation for the past 28 years. We were founded in 1995. And our strategic thematic areas of work are 5. And our first one is scaling and sustaining the movement. Remember, we've been in operation for 28 years, and this means that over the past 28 years, we have had over 5,000 women groups coming on board to the movement. And so we are aiming at scaling up to the other, because we are currently in 22 counties, so we are aiming to scale up to the other counties, but at the same time we want to sustain the 5,000 women groups that are already in the movement. Our second thematic area is on women leadership and governance, and under this particular pillar, one, we are seeking to ensure that the public changes its perception of grassroots women in leadership. Secondly, we are doing a lot of programmatic work that is aiming at capacity building our grassroots women and girls to be able to get into political positions and also various positions in the public space. And so you will find our grassroots women and girls sitting in various boards, sitting in technical working groups. And this is at local, national, region, and even international levels. And you'll also find us responding, pushing for gender responsive public governance, because you realize that often public governance is there, but the gender responsiveness part of it is absent. And so that's what we will do in that particular thematic area. You'll also find us doing a lot of work on our pillar of economic empowerment for grassroots women and girls. And so this is where, one, we are advocating for the access, control, and ownership of productive assets such as land, finance, and technology. And so we are saying it is, you realize that our Constitution of Kenya has actually given the mandate for grassroots women and girls to be able to access, own, and control productive assets such as land. So we are doing a lot of sensitization. We are supporting them to get into this particular area of ownership. We're also doing a lot of work on business development in this particular pillar. And this is where you will find us having what we call our guarantee funds, and also what we call the Groots circle. And so you realize most of the times when a grassroots woman or girl goes to access a loan, maybe in a bank, the first thing that you'll be asked is, where's your title deed or where's your logbook? And we came to realize that unfortunately most of our grassroots women don't have access to these things. And so we set up the Groots circle to be able to allow them to still get loans, to still get money from this particular circle. And that's why you will see someone like Cecilia being a grassroots woman who is a millionaire. She can access loans of up to $1 million in a month. You'll also find us doing a lot of work on climate justice. You realize that the new global pandemic is climate change. And so we are doing a lot of work in the ASAL areas of Tana River and the likes to help reclaim land, first of all, because there's a lot of vast land, and also a lot of trainings on agroecology, climate smart agriculture, to just push for the resilience of grassroots women and girls to climate change and also to disaster. Last but not least, we are doing a lot of work on eliminating all forms of gender injustices. You realize that there's a lot of gender-based violence, especially since 2020, since the pandemic. There's been an increase of the issues of gender-based violence. And so we have set up various shelters in various parts of the country. You'll realize that we are also allowing our grassroots women to understand the various referral pathways, the alternative justice systems, so that if I wake up today and I'm a sexual gender-based violence survivor, I know exactly where to start with my case. I'll not go to the chief and maybe that's not the correct referral pathway, you know. I'll know that I need to start at the police station. So we've done a lot of sensitization. We've also gotten a lot of funding from the MasterCard Foundation. And so out of this, we developed something we call the Jasiri Fund. And so this is an economic resilience fund for gender-based violence survivors. So what next after we take you through the referral pathway? You go to court, you cannot go back, you know, to the place in which you are perpetrated. So we are able to also give gender-based violence heroes money in forms of grants and in loans, so that they can also go back and just continue with their economic work. So in a nutshell, that's the work we do. You realize we've done for 28
years of work in various, that's very good. Now, in terms of public finance management, I guess this is where you talk about organizing the various women groups to identify their needs and then to advocate that those needs are addressed by government at their local level. So this time, let's talk about the county, all right? So county is that local government. County needs to allocate resources to address the needs that have come out of the grassroots, women, youth, marginalized, and they've said these are our needs. How do you channel that communication so that then the county, as it's doing its plan, as it's working on its budget, as it's working on CIDP, your needs are put in there?
Okay. Me or Cecilia?
Yeah.
All right.
You start with you and then Cecilia will come in and tell us.
So let me give a brief history of the work that we've done that has led to the voices of grassroots women, youth and marginalized communities being influencing fiscal policy, which is now what you're terming as the county public finance management cycle. So for the longest time, we realized that there is a gap, because the Constitution gives permission for public participation. Legally, it is in the Constitution of Kenya. However, there is a gap because we lack something on civic education. And so in as much as there is public participation, you realize that grassroots women and girls often are attending public participation, but as they attend, there's a gap of knowledge. And so we introduced what we call the Budget Academy, to be able to allow our grassroots women and girls to have capacity. And so what does this mean? They were taught on the public finance management cycle, and so now that they are aware that in July 1st, the finance year as it starts, there's a document that is specifically set for the month of August. There's a document that is specifically set for the month of September. Now they have the capacity to realize, okay, in September, we are planning for the annual development plans of the county. And so I need to check that all the priorities that are being put, whether it is through submission of memorandas where they are writing down their priorities, or it is through attending the public hearings and they are going and they are sitting down and they are pushing their priorities. And when you realize that the gender responsive priorities are issues of health, issues of water, issues of gender-based violence. So we are pushing for what are they called, the rescue centers. And so this is where we came in to be able to have our grassroots women now pushing. And so this is done through one, as I've said, we submit memorandas. So you'll find our grassroots women writing memorandas every time that there is a public finance management cycle document. You will find them physically attending public participation forums in form of public hearings. So they will hear maybe a statement like, in this particular social hall on this day, there's going to be public participation, and they will lobby each other. Remember, we said we work through women groups. And so if Cecilia, for example, has gotten the information, she will communicate to the 10 groups that she's a part of. And she'll tell them, can we show up on this particular day? Can we push for these priorities? What are the priorities in our county? And so they will go and push for this. Also, we will do this through executive councils and committees. We have been fortunate enough to lobby for our grassroots women to sit in the various committees, such as what we call the County Budget Economic Forum. That is a very critical space when it comes to the representation of the public on issues finance. So these are the various ways that we have our budget champions in this case and our grassroots women and girls lobbying for their priorities in the different counties that we work in.
Cecilia, now coming.
Yes.
You are a budget champion in Laikipia.
Yes.
Okay. So Governor Joshua Irongo right now is going to the county assembly to say, this is my budget for the year and I'd like you to approve it. Have you participated in drafting that budget, and how?
I take this opportunity to thank Spice Radio FM for giving us this chance. Groots Kenya entry point, it's through mapping and induction of champions. Who are champions? Champions are grassroots communities, women and girls, who knows what they want, how they want it, where they want to get it from, and how they'll go about it. So through the Budget Academy process, we are able to get equipped skills and knowledge that we can be able to know the timelines, the budget timelines of what we want as a community. I participated in the third generation CIDP, the third generation that is ongoing, where we are able to put all our priority areas as a county. The different forums that were conducted in Laikipia, the 202 forums that were conducted in Laikipia, with a turnout of over 25,000 participants. We were able to give at the local level, at village level. We really thank the Laikipia County government. For the first time in history, we were able to have the largest number of public forums. We also submitted our memorandas. The 15 wards that are in Laikipia were able to submit the memorandas at the county government so that they be incorporated. We were involved from the inception of the third generation CIDP, working in the sector working groups to see what it is the programs that will be there during the formation of the CIDP. We were there during the validation of the CIDP, and also the county government during the CFSP in February 20 this year, the county fiscal strategy paper that gives the ceilings of what every sector will have for development and recurrent expenditure. Our interest, we also look at what has been happening before. Is there an increase? Is the budget gender responsive? Is there an increase of what was happening? Because if money is allocated for health, water, agriculture, markets, are the places that the grassroots communities are affected most. Because if an ECD center, which is part of the devolved function at the county level, if an ECD center is put close to the people at the village level, women who take their children so far to the schools will have enough time to do their businesses, will have time to do unpaid care work, will have time to do home-based care services to the community. They'll have time for their businesses. They'll have time to engage in productive activities at the grassroots level. So whatever is happening at the county government right now, we are involved as grassroots women, because during the budget estimates, the county government of Laikipia brought back what was in the CFSP, the allocations, the specific projects. We have the MDC, the Machinery Development Committees at the village level, where members of the public, women and men, the whole community are elected, were elected to represent various sectors. Some were selected in health, others in professionals, others in water, so that the issues, the priorities of the community at the village level are captured. They came back during the budget estimates just to see the priorities that we gave during the CIDP, because the ADP, what is in the budget estimates is an extract from the CIDP. So if you do not participate in the CIDP, you will not be anywhere in the ADP.
Okay, you talked about memoranda that then go forward to the committees, right?
Yes.
And we're also talking about, representation at the grassroots level.
Yes.
So what goes into these memoranda? What are some of the because obviously memoranda are suggestions of what the people on the ground are saying is necessary to happen at the county level. So what are some of these things then that the people are saying we need you to include this? So when you're assigning money, assign it some of these things.
When we go for public participation is a process where the concerns, the needs and values of the public are incorporated in decision making. So when you are going for public participation, public hearings, there are multitudes of people. People may not have the time and to air their views, to give their priority areas, because the timelines, maybe the allocation of public participation will be like for 2 or 3 hours. And we are a multitude of 2,000 people or 1,000 people. We will not get the chance to give our priority areas. So we get back as a community, grassroots women. And Groots Kenya works in a bottom-up model where we don't have just the champions, the women and girls champions. We have the men for women champions, women who believe in women leadership. So we include them in our meetings. We do prior meetings before the public participation.
Just explain the prior meetings. How exactly do you have them, and what do you do so that it leads to this, the bigger meetings where you have thousands of people?
And if I can add to that, because we're saying this is how the county is going to spend money, and we want to be involved in that. These are the things that we are saying are important because we are the ones who deal with them on a daily basis.
Yes.
So what are some of these things, even as you're having these meetings, that then come out? How do you then decide and say, this is what we're going to carry forward?
Yeah.
And these small groups, how many people do you have in them?
So I have said that Groots work in a bottom-up model, that we have very champions at the grassroots level. I have said that public participation happens at the village level in some counties like Laikipia. So in the village level, We have structures of leadership. I represent the Nyuki ward as a ward coordinator. I have village representatives, leaders who will caucus and see what are the priority areas in our village, not at county level.
How do they caucus?
We use
Forgive
water.
me. The reason why you see me asking these questions,
Yes.
because it's important.
Yeah.
You're discussing something that perhaps other people have never done,
Yeah.
and they do not know even how to do it.
Yes.
So I'm actually asking you to get granular. I've understood the structure, how it cascades to the village.
Yes.
All right. Now, when we talk about the village, all right, who is involved in this discussion, and how do you get them to be involved in these intricate discussions, which you're going to scale up?
Okay. After the budget academy,
Yes.
we were equipped with knowledge and skills about the PFM cycle and the budgeting process. So we know what will happen when. We know the areas of public participation, the timelines, because it's not any other time that we'll have public participation. So when we have been able to come together with the county government, we have WhatsApp groups. So they always inform us through the WhatsApp groups, because before they are gazetted in the Kenya Gazette or the newspapers. How many grassroots women will read the newspapers? Very few. But through the WhatsApp group, if members of the Groots Kenya champions, a majority of them are in the WhatsApp group at the ward level forums. So when we get to the timeline of the public participation, we caucus and go to the village, each to individual villages where we come from, because even in a ward there are diverse needs and priorities. So we'll caucus on what is our priority as entailed at the CIDP. So that in the annual development plan, we'll be able to know what will be our priority during this annual development plan. So we are able to know what if it is water. What do we need? Do we need the water pumps? Do we need a hospital to be equipped with the medicine? Do we need seeds? ECD. Do we need seeds because we need food for food security? Do we need to plant trees? What is our priority at then? And then we also know who will say what when we go to the public participation forum.
Okay.
You even assign who
will say what,
who speaks on certain matters.
Yes.
Okay.
When we go to the public hearing, we also know that we follow up with the memorandum, because we know that we may not get the chance. The champions may not get the chance to speak out of all the issues that are surrounding our communities. So we write the memorandum on the same of what we were doing at the public forum and at the memorandum, so that we are able to just a push, just a follow-up on what has been said during the public forums.
I'd like you to come up with specific examples.
Yes.
This 2023-2024 budget by Laikipia County is going to have this and this and these elements, and these ones came from grassroots women. Okay, and let's see how they've ended up in this budget of Laikipia County in the next financial year.
Thank you.
Doris Munyingi and Cecilia Mtomburugo from Groots. Groots is grassroots organizations operating together in sisterhood. And if what these two ladies have described this morning actually happens in this country, then, my friend, the state of devolution conversation that's about to be had today, the speech by the chair of the Council of Governors, they just need to call you.
Yes.
The state of devolution is this. This is the state of devolution.
Yes.
Basically, you're saying that women, youth, and marginalized organize in small groups at village level, and Groots has educated them on the budget making cycle and instances where they can participate to influence policy. And then you also have a way of monitoring and tracking it all the way to budget and to implementation.
Yes.
As we took the break, we asked you, Cecilia, to think of a couple of examples in this current budget making cycle where your groups, because you're a champion in Laikipia, where you participated, you influenced, and something that you pushed for has been added into this year's financial budget by Laikipia County.
Yes. We were involved in the inception of the third generation CIDP. And what is happening now? So the issues and the priorities that we gave, are incorporated in this one. Because for the first time in history, the CIDP came in templates. The issue of the health was in a template. The issue of agriculture, water, according to the sectors in Laikipia County. I'll give an example of the ward where I come from. Mm-hmm. The village where I attended, Ntrokoma village. The priority area of the current ADP was water pans at household level.
Every household to have a water pan?
A water pan, yes.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Because the issues of climate change, the issues of water is critical. Because if you have water for agriculture, everything else is done. We'll be able to have time. We'll be able to have time to do other activities that relate to development. The issue of health, the community health volunteers, for I don't know what time, they've been called volunteers. They do a lot of work. They have done home-based care services. They are the linkages to the injustices, the gender-based violences that happen. But for the longest time, you've never been remunerated. But in this current budget, they are called community health promoters with a remuneration. So these are some of the examples we've been able to push for.
So your village pushed for water pans to be included in the budget?
The sector of health pushed for community health volunteers to be incorporated in the budget because of the work that they do. Other parts in the county have pushed for health centers to become like NIBO and others, to have medicine. Our health centers and facilities did not have medicine, but it is there. We'll have medicine. We'll have workers, professional workers, an increase so that services come closer to the people.
And this is actually happening today as a result of that participation?
Yes.
So then, Doris,
Yes.
there is a case then to be made for public participation because the previous attitude may be, well, I'm going to go participate and then, okay, who knows if what I'm going to suggest is actually going to be incorporated.
Yes.
But here we have living active examples of people actually caucusing and saying, these are our needs, we take them forward. When time for public participation, we actually go and participate because we've come prepared.
Yes.
So there's a case to be made for it and you can see it happening. But this doesn't just happen on its own.
Yes.
It needs to be sandwiched with political will. Does it not?
Yes, it needs.
So do we see that this is happening in particular counties where the county executive then is willing and ready?
Yes.
So if you don't have a willing and ready county executive, this won't work?
Yes, unfortunately. The reality is when it comes to the issues of public finance management cycle, there is a lot of advocacy that needs to be done in order to push political will to align to what really needs, what is actually correct. And so as Cecilia speaks, you realize that the work that has been done in Laikipia through the programs of Groots Kenya is work that has happened 3.5 years. What we are seeing now is work that started in 2020. We began to push for public participations. At that point, the Laikipia used to have 15 public participation forums. So if you're having 15, then basically it means that those 15, not everyone will be able to attend it because it's at a ward level and a ward is big. And so consistent advocacy over the 3.5 years is what has led to the fruits of seeing 202 public participation forums. And that's why, unfortunately, it may not be the case for all the counties. And that's why Groots is continuously doing this budget academies and continuously raising more budget champions. Because maybe I'll not give an example by county name, but there's a county that we work in. And unfortunately, we are struggling because you will realize that there is only one public participation forum that is being held in the whole county.
One.
one like this. And so if that is one.
And we can't say that is at least a start.
Exactly. And you realize, unfortunately, the Constitution of Kenya has given an open clause of what public participation is. It basically can happen through the 5 of us can be called to a meeting by the governor. And if we are called, that and we give our views, that is public participation, because the Constitution governs public participation in forms of public hearings, memorandas, executive committees, surveys, consultations. And so that gap of what really is an effective public participation is why, unfortunately, we are realizing that there is a lack and a gap of some counties getting to hear the voices of these grassroots women, youth, and marginalized communities. And maybe, just before we get there, you'll realize that there has been improvement in some counties, whereby one county in particular, for example, was having one public participation forum in their particular county. As of last year, they had 2. And I'm happy to report that last week on Monday, if people do their research, they figure out which county I'm talking about. But last week on Monday, that particular county was at least able to increase to 7.
Oh my.
So at least there is a bit of improvement.
Oh, that's a huge improvement.
Yeah. So there is consistent need for advocacy, because this advocacy is what will push the political will to be aligned to exactly what is effective.
You've actually responded to what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Because these processes and the progress that you make, how aligned are they to the political will? Which I would argue is nestled in the governor and perhaps the county assembly. So if you have a governor who supports the process, then the process will expand. Conversely, if you have a governor who doesn't support the process, then you will have one public participation in a year. All right. And when he begins to see the light, there'll be 2.
And
when he really sees more light,
they become
7. Okay.
And now we'll keep pushing until they have, actually in that particular area, we are hoping to first see 35. And then now we are hoping to see them getting to 200. Because you see, first of all, how this happens is, remember, it's an issue of budgeting and priority. So the budget champions and the grassroots women need to push for when they are, for example, if it's the budget estimate, at that point, what the grassroots women and girls need to do is to write a memoranda that says, under the sector of county administration, we wish to see allocation of resources for this number of public participation forums. That's how you begin it. So at the memoranda stage, you begin pushing for, at that point, at the public hearing, you keep saying, I think it's unfortunate if we are going to have one public participation forum for this whole county, and yet we are representing, maybe 50 wards, maybe 40 wards, maybe 20 wards. It begins there. And so when you see the good thing with advocacy and agency, when you keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, you get fruits eventually. Yes. It may take 3 years.
Yes, no, but you have something unique here.
Yes.
This budget academy, you're not just pushing in a vacuum.
Yes.
You're pushing from a position of knowledge.
Yes.
Now, have you figured out why it is some county governments resist?
Yes.
When you say budget, then you say budget academy.
Money.
And scrutiny.
And scrutiny.
Yes.
Do you know what they hear?
Yes.
Or do you know what they see?
Yes. It's very true, actually, what you're saying. I'm going to give you an example to respond to your question.
And again, don't give an example. Just tell us, in County X.
Yes, in County X.
Yes.
Remember, unfortunately, some of our government thrive on ignorance of the public, because it gives room for people to just run things according to, where you wish. If maybe my manifesto started by saying what I really want to do in this county is roads, for example, or it's hospitals, but maybe the priority of that particular, I'll give an example with Laikipia North, and Laikipia North is where they are pastoralists, and so maybe a road to them is not a priority. Water is the priority. And so if someone comes and insists, I'm going to give this particular county a road by force in Laikipia North, you're failing. And so an example of why this knowledge is important and the kind of power that it gives. Cecilia here, a while ago, and a few other people were called for a certain public participation forum. And so for that particular document, the document is what we call the county fiscal strategy paper. in a particular county. Maybe
It's like the budget
Cecilia's.
policy statement
Yes.
at national level.
Yes, at national level, it's like the budget statement. And so basically what it does is to say in health, we are going to use 400 million. In roads, we are going to use 600 million. And your work as a public is to come and challenge those resource allocations and say, I think in this county, our priority is roads. So maybe let's put this allocation to a different sector. So remember what was happening in February. It was a political season and everyone was campaigning and everyone was looking for any opportunity to find numbers in one room, and just come and advocate. And so in that particular county, one of the existing leadership at that point, political leaders, came in and brought what we call the governor's scorecard. And what does a scorecard do? It does, it comes and says, in the 5 years, you people said you wanted a road, I built these roads. You said you wanted a hospital, I built these hospitals. You said you wanted water, I did this water. And this is why knowledge is important, and maybe this is why it's fought, because the budget champions who are in that particular hall stopped the meeting. And they said, excuse me, this is the wrong platform to ask us about those things. We are here to talk about the county fiscal strategy paper. You should give me a document that says in the next financial year, this is the ceiling for health. So don't ask us about what you've done. Go and coordinate your own meeting and do that at that particular meeting. But legally, we are expecting the county fiscal strategy paper. And let me tell you, it brought war. Because unfortunately, that particular county had not brought the correct documents. And so what do? They had to stop the meeting there. Because remember, they go in numbers. So they have they have collective agency, there are many. So when the political leader saw that, okay, the larger part of the room actually knows what is supposed to be done, they had to leave. And so that meeting was postponed to the next day, and the next day they came with the correct documents and did what was supposed to be done. So unfortunately, not every person will be happy that you have that knowledge, because you're able to stop side events.
Is there a possibility that the benefit that what you are doing accrues even to the leadership? Is it possible to communicate this? Because there is benefit when you have a knowledgeable population. There's benefit. In fact, there's a lot of benefit.
What happens in how we are doing our work, you'll realize that maybe personally, and a few of the staff in Groots Kenya are PFM experts. And so we can't be able to hold an academy and we be the ones to train those particular community members. But as Groots Kenya, we realize that no, if we do this, we are not doing what is right. And so you'll realize that our academy is normally run by the county government of those counties. We will get the departments of finance to come and do the training. We will get the department of public participation to come and do the training.
Clever.
We will get a few representatives of the county assembly to come and sit in the training. And why are we doing this? One, to create a linkage so that the budget champions in that particular room know exactly who to go to. Because these academies are 2 weeks. By the time I'm done staying with you people, maybe for 2 weeks, we'll be friends. You'll know where I live, you'll know my parents, you'll know my relatives. And so the community begins to know exactly who to talk to. And so that already brings a sense of accountability. Because when they write memorandums, they will know that my memorandum is going to the director of public participation. And if I don't get a response within 14 days, I'll just call him up because I already have his number and tell him, see, I sent a memorandum and I've not gotten a response. And so this collaboration where you're not actually fighting the county government, but you're working with them is what yields the fruits that we are continuing to see in the counties where we are implementing this program.
And clearly not all counties are willing to partner with you. Or if they are, at a much slower pace.
Yes.
So how do you get them to move up the pace beyond just advocating?
Yes. You see, when it comes to advocacy, advocacy is not something where you expect results overnight.
Why not?
There is a difference between activism and advocacy. Activism is maandamano. We will lift our banners, we will make noise, and maybe we will jumpstart the process. But when it comes to advocacy, advocacy is where you're trying to create long-term impact, where you're trying to influence change to happen for a long time, not just for that particular document that you're pushing for, but so that in the long year of the public finance management, consistency happens over time. And remember, when it comes to doing advocacy, you have to know who to knock the door at, where to knock, when to knock, and all these kind of things.
Do you train this in your academy?
Yes.
You train them advocacy?
Yes. So we have the academy has 3 key topics. The first one is public finance management cycle. So we are telling you the financial year starts on 1st July and ends on 30th of June. The second one is public participation, so that you're able to realize that unfortunately for our county doesn't even have public hearing, because there are counties in this country that actually have zero public hearings. They actually operate in the form of executive committees. And so if that's the case, how do we allow our grassroots women and girls to sit in these committees so that they can influence fiscal policy? And the third topic is advocacy. And so they will be taught on really what is advocacy. How do you go about advocacy? Do you go about advocacy by going to knock on the door and make noise and slam doors? Or do you go about in a slow manner, making friendship? In this case, the friendship, it will have a benefit at the end in terms of, you will get whatever you need done. So that those three key topics are what we do in our academy. And I think that's why we are getting this kind of resource.
Do you see, Cecilia, that even as these processes take place, because all of this, whether we like it or not, all of this comes from some kind of agitation. There's something, if you start from the end and go, there's something that is not working. And so you say, in order for this thing to work, we need to then be in the place where the decisions are being made and where the money is being spent. As these things have been happening, can you say then that agitation that has caused this thing in the first place has been significantly reduced? We look at the global pandemic today of climate change and we say it's affecting people in Laikipia County. Because of being included in these conversations, we now see that people are living better because they've been involved in the process. Do we then also see that it is giving impetus to the next thing, whereby we say, okay, we participated in this, it has worked, let us participate in the next thing. Let us make sure that there's a primary ECD school. Let us make sure that there's one. Now, when we get that one, we go to the next. Can you see now that there's an excitement almost to say it has worked, let us do some more?
Impact is not realized in a day. We are in this for only 3.5 years, but we can already see some kind of impact, because after the budget academy, every champion in Muranga and Laikipia, 199 budget champions were trained along the 3 pillars that we have talked about. We went back to our communities and sensitized each not less than 100 community members in churches, in one-on-one conversations, in public balazas, in chiefs balazas, even with the stakeholders, so that we can have a numbers, tyranny of numbers. Because if you're just the 199 of us in the 2 counties, we may not feel the impact. But we know that this is a long-term impact that will be realized. We will have many people, because my people get perished because of lack of knowledge. Very many people, when we go to these forums, or even these sensitization forums, they always tell us, are you experts? We are not experts, but we are experts in our own small way. Because the knowledge that has been impacted on us, we are able to push it to the next level, to our community members that we come from. We realize if this is done in the 47 counties in the country, there will be great impact, because people have no idea of what happens in the fiscal spaces, which is money. They don't know the timelines. The public participations that used to happen, it was hooliganism. People are going to fight the governor. They are asking, where is the governor? They are used to stipends, getting 200 shillings. So they also believe that when you go for public participation, they're expecting, they should be paid. But we have realized that when we go to these forums, we are going with tangible things, priorities and needs and concerns of the development that we want to see in our grassroots communities.
Cecilia, are you saying that when you participate, you're not paying people a stipend?
No, we don't need. We don't need the stipend.
At village level?
Not at even
as you go
level.
to ward and county level?
We don't need the stipend.
People don't get paid at all?
No, we don't get paid.
How many people come out for, let's say, public participation at village level?
I have just told you, in Laikipia County, during the CIDP,
200.
when we were giving our priority areas for the third generation CIDP, we had 202 forums, public hearings, with a turnout of 25,000 members of the public. How do you pay those? 25,000 people. We didn't need to be paid. Because this is where the community go wrong. Because if you paid, then...
Are you saying that the communities that you live in and engage with have understood the benefits that they derive from this, and that the knowledge provided is payment enough?
Yes.
Yes, it is payment enough, because we want to see results, not for personal results, for personal gain, but for the community. If a road is done, it is not Cecilia's. If a hospital has medicine, it's not Cecilia's or Doris. It is for the whole community, for the person who participated in the hearing or the person who did not. The very vulnerable grassroots communities will benefit from our voices. That is where we are saying, my budget, my budget, my voice. Yes.
Wow.
Freedom has arrived.
Bas. Kuisha. Thank you very much, ladies, for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Doris Munyingi and Cecilia Mtomborogo are from Groots, Kenya. Groots is grassroots organizations operating together in sisterhood. They've been telling us about the voice of women, youth, and marginalized in getting their development at county level.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.